If you have a business, if you want to talk about anything, you can come up here, plug your business. But when people plug it, make sure you follow, make sure you support. Really important. Okay. Two things I want to celebrate from the Tech Effect. Okay. This year, we've trained over 100 Black youth and professionals in digital skills. Okay. Very, very proud about that. Thank you. Shout out to Skills for Change. Skills for Change, who's here. We did some programming with them. We're doing some stuff with Toronto Metropolitan University and Peel District School Board. And, you know, digital skills is our thing, but as, you know, we can reach as many communities as possible. We're happy about that. The second thing is, last year we launched a Python program. So intro to Python programming for new immigrants, all women, right? So it's an all-women program. So we've done 4 cohorts of that. So we have over 60 graduates through that program. So that's very excited as well, or very exciting. So just 2 things I wanted to celebrate and let everybody know what's going on, because sometimes you're doing all these things and people don't really know, right? So if you don't show people, tell people, how they're gonna know. So I wanted to share that. Shout out to my boy Romain, Access Gourmet, okay? This man's cooking up. It's called culinary excellence, people, right? You see what he does, okay? I love it. The food's so good. So thank you for coming through, brother, and hooking us up. Also, shout out to Workplace One, this beautiful, beautiful space, okay? Thank you for giving us this space to come together, build our community. And, you know, we've actually been doing these events with Workplace One since before the pandemic. So this is just a continue where we left off type of scenario. So very thankful about that. We're also here today. Oh, shout out to Shivani and Aisha. They work with the Tech Effect. All our creative, all of our marketing, thank you so much for holding us down. You can see that our brand has elevated from me trying to piecemeal stuff together. Now we got real professionals hooking us up. So thank you for that. Oh, the last thing I want to celebrate is Mercedes Blackwood, Black Coffee Communications. The Tech Effect and Black Coffee, we now have a partnership together. So she does strategy and communications. We do digital strategy and marketing. We started working together last year, doing a lot of projects together. So now we just like roll as a team, and we're, you know, co-organizing and hosting this event together. So yeah, I also have 3 quick lessons for you guys, okay? This is really fast, and then I'll pass it off. So 3 things that came to mind that I wanted to talk about. The first one is when you feel discouraged, that's when you really, really need to bring the courage, okay? And you need to embrace challenges to grow stronger. When I first started doing these events, I was scared. I was like, man, nobody's gonna come. We just went to the grocery store, bought some random platters, some random drinks, but every time I have these events, I always get this doubt in my head. And now I've like kicked that doubt to the curb, and you can see why. So that's the first thing. The second thing, conversations lead to compensation. Okay, that's a big one. So make sure, talk to everybody that's here. Make sure you network. Make sure you find out what, you know, not just, hey, what do you do? But I need help with this. I have a business. I need you to buy. I need something, right? So we got to hook each other up, help each other out. And then the last one is true success is in succession, right? So mentorship is a big thing for us. We want to help train, develop the next generation and others. So those are my 3 keys for the night. I'm going to pass the mic over to Mercedes Blackwood. And we also have our special guests, Stephanie Small and Sydney Giddens from Black Taxi, who are going to talk to us a little bit more as well.
Thank you. Don't worry, I'll give you their bios because pretty spectacular people we have here with us today. Thank you for being here. We're so thrilled because, yeah, we had an idea. We're like, let's get a vibe going. Let's get a space where people can come together, talk, network. That's how Kareem and I ended up being partners. We met on a project that actually fell through. It didn't go forward. But when we talked about the 50% kind of marketing communications that I take care of in terms of strategy and implementation, and then what he took care of, we realized wait a minute, if we work together, we can give end-to-end services to our clients. And so here we are, right? 1 year later. So that's why we encourage you to talk to each other, network. You never know what could come out of it. All right, so we have some great guests here today to talk to you about just that, being bold and being your authentic self in whatever space you're in, which can be a real challenge, right? Especially if you're a person of color, sometimes if you're a woman, if you're in any kind of marginalized group, it can be difficult to bring your authentic self to work and feel like you can thrive, right? So enter Stephanie Small, a powerhouse in advertising. Oh yes, say it with your whole chest. Stephanie is the founder and director of Black Taxi. That is a division of Taxi, the ad agency, the famous ad agency that everybody knows and loves. And Black Taxi is a creative and strategic division of the ad agency with the program mission of attracting, hiring, and retaining Black talent to lead change. Hello. Hello, that's pretty great, yes. But this isn't new because you've been championing diversity from the beginning. Every time you're in a workplace, you have tried to make sure that it looks a little different than when you entered the door. And so that's a big deal, and we commend you for that. So we're gonna talk about it. So let me sit down. Let me sit down, and I'll bring Sydney up in a moment, okay? All right. I know, right? No, don't. We were just vibing before, remember? And it was like, you know. So, Black Taxi. Let's get right into it. So, you know, we won't go all the way back in your career because you have quite a career. So why don't we start at the point where you're at Taxi, and you have an idea, and you bring up the idea, you say it out loud. Tell us about how that went.
Oddly enough, saying it out loud was the hardest part for me. As you so eloquently stated, I've been doing diversity initiatives in each agency that I've worked at. Nothing, obviously, of this scale. But Black Taxi was really born out of an idea after the murder of George Floyd. As we all know, in our community, we're home and, you know, mourning and anger and all of those emotions that you're having. And in addition to that, I just thought to myself, I want to do something, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I knew that I wanted something that had longevity, sustainability, and more importantly, it didn't need me at the helm to run it, because I never stay in one place for too long. And so it came to me, and I just said, you know, I want to do something, but I didn't want to do like a one-off donation to Black Lives Matter. I didn't want to do a one-time partnership with an organization, because for me, it just felt very fluff. It felt very surface, and it wasn't getting to the root of the problem, which is systemic racism. And so my CEO at the time is the height of COVID, and we're all home, and he used to send out these emails every Friday just saying, this is what's going on with the business, this is what's going on with culture, this is new hires, et cetera. And that week, he sent an email and said, we're not talking about any of that at all. We're going to address what's going on in the world. We're going to address racism. We're going to address anti-black racism more specifically. This is the stance that I have as your CEO. This is the stance that we have as a company. And basically, if you have an issue, run up and get done up. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, because I've never worked somewhere where I was acknowledged not just as someone who was there, but as someone who was there who was Black as well. And so I didn't even think about it. I just flipped him back a note. And at this point, for context, I've been with the company maybe 7 months. Really? Yeah. I had started at Taxi in September 2019. I got promoted in February 2020, and then we went into COVID. Don't roll over that, though. Like, with a quick... It was cute. And so I just flipped him back a note, didn't even think about it, of course, because I'm like sobbing all day and like trying to get through meetings. And I just said, I want to do something. I wanted to have these 3 things, but I don't know what I want to do. And he said, okay, let me know when you figure it out. And I was like, okay. And so I took the weekend and really, you know, dug in and was doing some research. And I was like, none of this works. I just have to do something. I just got to build something, I guess, because if not me, then who? And so when I came back to him, I said, let's take over our internship program. I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but let's start with our internship program. Let's revamp it. Let's have only Black applicants for the next 2 to 3 years. Let's cast the net wide, because historically what Taxi had been doing was taking interns from colleges and universities where they weren't legally allowed to pay them. So this is also a fun fact. This is a hot tip, okay? Because people try to drag me about this on LinkedIn. I pay my interns. And when I say I pay them, I give you dollars in your bank account. When you come and work for me, you get a full-time salary prorated for the time that you're with me, which is 3 months. So when I get paid on the 15th and the 31st, so do you, okay? Thank you. You're welcome. I wasn't about to ask Black people to come work for free. Come on. How people get around that in the advertising space is one of 2 ways. They only take, which historically what Taxi had done was only take applicants from specific colleges and universities that legally don't allow the agency to pay them because they're getting a school credit. Secondly, they say, yes, we're going to pay you, but at the end of your internship, you'll get $1,000. They're still paying you, but it's not a livable wage. It's not a salary in any way, shape, or form. And so when I announced I was paying my interns, well, it's illegal not to pay interns. Okay, calm down, okay? Because people are circumventing the system, not at Taxi. You will be paid, and I will reiterate, a full-time salary, prorated for the time that you're with me. Sydney can vouch for me. Full-time salary for the 3 months, 15th and 31st. And we pay, it's a livable wage. It'll be just below or just around entry level, because also, at the end of my internship, I want to hire you. I don't want to send you to Dentsu or FCB or John Street. I just spent 3 months with you. I love you. I don't want to send you out in the world. I want to hire you. And so we teach you how to negotiate. Ask for what you're worth, display your skills, list out why you deserve that money. Let's talk about it. Because if God forbid, I can't hire you and I have to send you out into the world, you need to understand what those conversations and how those conversations are going to go. And so we revamped the internship. It took off like a rocket. Sydney was a part of the first cohort. We put a call out in September, and I knew there was a need for this, but I didn't realize how big the need for it was. I can only fill 5 roles every year. The first year that Sydney applied, she was one of 127 applicants that I got for the first year. And I was like, what's happening? What's going on? Okay.
Weren't you like, this was necessary?
Yeah, because also like before Black Taxi, if anyone's heard of POCAM, which is People of Color in Canadian Advertising and Marketing, I had started that as a private LinkedIn group in 2019. And that just came out of the idea, like I was having conversations with like Mercedes, and then I'd have the same conversation with Sydney, and then I'd have the same conversation with Anton. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of having the same conversation with all y'all. I love y'all. Let's get into like a virtual room and have this conversation. And so I'd started POCAM, started Black Taxi. It took off like a rocket. We brought the cohort, Sydney's cohort in, and it was like, I like to joke with my HR director that it was like an airplane going down a runway and we're running beside it, like hammering nails into the wing. We're like, we don't know what we're doing. We just know we want to help people and change the space. The beautiful thing about it now, though, is that I'm constantly asking for feedback because it's going to be different every year. It's going to look different every year with different people. We have people that are not only your manager, but you also, which is my favorite part, you have a Black Taxi mentor. So they look like me, they look like Mercedes, they look like Sydney. Because yes, Anton can teach you how to be an art director, but if Anton is white, does he have any understanding of what it's like in being in a meeting and hearing something that's kind of like, that didn't land the way that you intended it to land? You need someone that looks like you to have those conversations. And again, if you're not within the 4 walls of Taxi and under my protection, you need to know how to navigate those conversations when you're out in the greater world. So you come in with me, you're a paid intern, you spend 3 months with me, I assign you a manager, and then you also get a Black Taxi mentor who meets with you. We both meet with you weekly, and we go over things. And so...
For each one of those things. So one of the keys is it's one thing to have a great idea. So you had a wonderful idea, and you had the buy-in from higher up, which is very difficult to get. What things did you say, look, how are we going to get these things instituted? Stuff like paying, teaching negotiation, getting mentors who are inside the building to help. How did you institute some of those things? How did you advocate to get those?
The thing is with me is like, I love to buck the system. I just do. It's problematic at times because I'll be like, no, I'm not doing that. No is my favorite word. It was the first word I learned. My mom will tell you that. And so I said to Rob, even when I was asking for the salary, I was on a Teams call and we're going through like the logistics and how we're gonna do it, et cetera. And I was like, okay, but we're gonna pay these people, right? And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like money? I don't know how else to explain payment. Like, we're gonna pay these people. And I just said on the call, I am not having Black people come to work at this agency and we're not giving them money because then I just won't do this. I'll go back to being an operations manager. I don't care. And I'll do it some other way, the way I've always done it. But what I'm not doing is asking Black people to come work for free because guess what? We had 400 plus years of that. And then I just sat there, just looked at them. And he just looked at me and he was like, leave it with me. I said, okay. And he came back. He said, I got 5 roles, full-time salary, prorated. Go off and prosper. So that's kind of one of the things that you have to understand is like, you have to stand firm and be prepared for the consequences. Because I am the first to admit, I am very, 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 very lucky with the people that I work with, the agency that I work for. Rob, my CEO, Rob Gannett, asked me when I first launched it, can I be a part of this team? What do you mean? You founded this agency. What am I gonna tell you? No? Like, sure, Rob. So it's like, I understand, I recognize that I'm very, very lucky to be in the position because I had previously come from an agency where they could not care less about diversity. And so you gotta be prepared to kind of stand firm and stand in your beliefs and stand in what you know is the right thing and what you wanna do and be prepared for the consequences either way.
What's the future of Black taxi?
Ooh, Chile. Okay, so this year is our 4th round of cohorts. We're coming up on a milestone year for Black Taxi. We're talking about doing an alumni get-together where we'll bring back, you know, the tried and true and tell all your success stories and meet the new interns and such. I'm hoping, I've been running this division it'll be 5 years next year. Congratulations. Thank you. And so, honestly, I'm hoping someone will come in and take this over because, like, your girl is tired, okay? I would love to do something else. I hate saying that out loud because then people are in my LinkedIn like, hey, I heard you on a panel at, you know, Kareem's thing. And I'm like, oh, God, here we go. I would love for someone to come in and take it over, and I would love to see their vision and how they see Black Taxi unfolding, because right now I'm very much like, no, this is the way we're doing it because this is my ting, so if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. So I would love someone else to come in and you know, take it over and make it their own and just see it continue to grow and be this beautiful thing. As for me, I'm always gonna live somewhere in the DEI space or DEI adjacent because my ultimate goal in everything that I do is to have a room reflected like this in every single agency across Canada, if we can, and that every single person that's in that room feels like they belong there and that they can bring their full, authentic selves to work, no matter what that is or what that looks like. So, you know, it may not happen in my lifetime. I know I look younger than I am, oil of Olay and minding my business. But yeah, Black Taxi, I mean, it's embedded in the culture of taxi now, and it doesn't need me to run. I have a great team that, you know, understands their assignments and they're fully committed and they have a full buy-in. So I'm not worried about, you know, when I move on to my next thing that it's gonna be like, you'll never hear about it again. It's embedded in the culture of taxi. It's not going anywhere, and that's across all of our offices in Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and New York. It's really just, for me, it's just about where the money resides. And what do y'all need me to do after this?
Absolutely, I love it. But you know what that's called? Legacy, my friend.
Thank you.
Legacy.
Thank you.
So I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to give this back to you. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. You're all right. Oh, you need your notes. Come on up. I'm going to introduce Sydney now to join up front. Come on up, Sydney. Welcome, Sydney Gittins, everyone. So as mentioned, Sydney is an alumni of Black Taxi from the first cohort. And I'm happy to report she is an art director, a working art director, if you will, which she'll talk to us about, with the agency Performance Art. I know that, Sydney, you love people, and you love to create with as many people as possible. Sydney loves to dissect a problem, right? You love to find the best solution, whether it's for your clients, whether it's with your team. And we know that you won't compromise okay? And I think that might be the reason that you got into Black Taxi, was that you don't compromise who you are or what you believe in, and we commend that. An OCAD alumni, Sydney is also a 2021 medal winner and graduate with distinction from the Bachelor of Design Advertising program with a minor in Digital and Media Studies. Everyone, a warm welcome again for Sydney Gittens. And as her mentor, I'm going to pass the mic over to Stephanie, who is going to interview Sydney about her exciting journey. I'll be right here.
Well, shoot. This is weird. I just have to start off by saying that because I'm used to like being on panels and being asked questions. So when I was proposed with this, I was like, what does this even look like? What questions I don't know what to ask. I was panicking. Sydney Gittens. I will say Sydney is my exemplary shining star of the Black Taxi program. I scooped out Lil Sid before she even graduated from OCAD. That's how intensely talented this young lady is, and how fierce, and as I was saying, standing in what you believe in, no matter the consequences. I was like, I need to have her on my team. I would love for you to take over Black Taxi if you just, you know what? I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm just gonna put it out there. So if like next year you guys see this happening, you'll be like, oh my God, I was there when they talked about it. It was such a monumental moment. Okay, Sid, I want you to tell the people where you are, what you're doing, what is driving your creative work right now.
All right, so right now I'm at Performance Art. I'm an art director, no longer a junior art director. I
love that for you.
Full-on art director. I've been in the business for 2 years, 2.5 technically.
Yes.
2.5 technically.
Count the internship.
We can count it. Right now I'm working on clients like BMW, I'm working on WWF, I'm working on Knorr, I'm working on Tresemme, a whole bunch of different clients, but also a ton of proactive work at Performance Art. Mm-hmm. And basically what's driving my creative right now is partially client problems, business problems. Yeah. We all gotta solve client problems, we all gotta solve business problems. Mm-hmm. But in terms of my proactive work, it's all Black all the time. Love it. Everything. Almost every idea I put forward. And Performance Art is one of those places where they champion that kind of thing. They champion that kind of work. It's part of why I went there. Before I showed up, they did a campaign at actually when they were still FCB6. They did the Go Back to Africa campaign, which was absolutely incredible. It was a social listening campaign where every time somebody got a reply on Twitter of someone being nasty, saying go back to Africa, it was essentially like, all right, bet. I'm going to go back. Because why wouldn't I go back? It was a tourism campaign for Tourism Africa. And then they also did, this was for the same client, Black and Abroad, they did the Black Elevation Map, which showed basically the elevation of Black culture in the United States versus the elevation of the actual land in the United States, Black businesses. It was basically a hub for Black culture, Black businesses all across the United States. And that's honestly part of why...
And it killed at Cannes.
Oh, it murdered at Cannes.
Killed at Cannes. So well, shout out to Alex Henry.
No.
Cradle Films.
Shout out to Alex Henry, honestly. A talent. A genius. And that's part of why I went there, because they're championing that kind of work. So right now, I'm working on a little Tang. I can't talk about it, but I'm working on a little Tang, maybe.
Oh. Okay. You want to talk about it
Maybe.
Okay.
But a lot of us championing my creative work right now, especially when I'm interacting with a whole bunch of people on my team, when we're working on diversity-focused, world-focused work, is being able to take a step back, evaluate the work, and basically say, is this true? And that's one of the biggest things.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it, because some of this...
That segues perfectly into my first question for you,
Yes.
which is, how does DE&I work affect you personally?
Oh, girl.
How much time? You said 20 minutes for this cruise? That's it, right?
All right. So personally, I will say, despite what people will say about how the industry works, how the world works these days, almost every opportunity I've gotten in the industry has come not just from a woman of color, but from a black woman. Every opportunity I've ever gotten has come from a black woman, whether that's, a networking opportunity to get a job, black taxi, someone recommending me for a job, being my recommendation, every single opportunity, every time. And Steph was the start of that, my very, very first opportunity.
It was my pleasure. I wasn't going to let you go anywhere else. I told you, I scooped her before she even graduated school. It was like, we need a contract in her inbox by the end of this year. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Super, super proud. And you were winning awards. We failed to mention that. You were winning awards while you were still at OCAT. As a student. Right.
I was.
So that was the other thing. I was
yeah.
like, are you dumb? Contract. Stop playing with me. Give her a contract. Y'all are wild. Wild. Okay, so to that point, how do you think, can you all hear me if I'm just yelling at you like this without the microphone? See, my voice carries. I'm the oldest, can you tell? Oh, sorry, Dave. This is for the video. I got you, Dave. Don't worry about it. So how do you think companies must improve their diversity efforts in the future? You don't have to name names. I mean, this is a safe space, so if you do name them, we'll be going to their LinkedIn. But yeah, let us know. What do you think they should do? Because also, in 2020, everybody had like the racial reckoning. People signed all these commitments. People were like, we're going to do all these wonderful things. And now that we're back outside, within 6 feet, and we're maskless, it kind of feels, and also in the States, we saw a lot of women, more specifically black women, with a DE&I title were cast to the side. When budgets were being cut, that was the first position to go. So now that we're here, and there are, a sprinkling of companies that are still kind of saying that they're doing things. Now that we're here and they've made those commitments, do we double down on those commitments, or do you think that we need to rebrand and try and kind of pivot and try something new?
All right, so the first thing I'll say is you're right. Every time budgets are slashed, for some reason, DE&I, for some reason, we all know the reason, DE&I is one of the first things to go. Always. Now, I will always say, no matter what agency that I'm at, our DE&I lead, my mind goes to Steph first.
I don't know about that barometer, girl, but
My mind goes to Steph first, not because of just how she performed, but also how she was recognized for her role. There are certain agencies, companies, they'll name a DE&I lead, but they'll just add it on top of the work they're already doing, not give them a title bump, not give them a pay bump. Taxi was not one of those. Steph got her dues, you got your money, you got your title, and every time I see an agency where there is it's always a black woman, where there is a black woman doing one job on top of her other job, not getting paid like she deserves, not getting the title bumps she deserves, that's my first step. DE&I leads need to be elevated to the level that C-suite people are, that managers are, that supervisors are. They need to be on that level, and they need to be respected on that exact same level. So DE&I leads need to be in the same room, in the same meetings as the CCOs, the CEOs, the CMOs. All the C's. DE&I needs need to be in the exact same room. And then I will also say DE&I needs to be a priority, not just from a perspective where sometimes you'll see agencies where, oh, our DE&I effort is we're going to do a little thing in Black History Month. We're going to do a little thing in AAPI month. We're going to do a little thing in Pride. We're going to do a celebration. We're going to do this, that, and the other. There needs to be work behind all of that celebration because you don't deserve to celebrate these communities until you've actually done the work. One of the biggest things...
Sorry, can you say that again?
You don't deserve to celebrate these communities until you've done the work to support them. One of my favorite things I like to say is you can't love the culture and not support the people.
Yeah. That part.
So I'll say, don't be having Pride events, Black History Month events where you're listening to music, you're dancing, you're drinking, you're having fun, if you're not doing the work to back that up within your organization.
Right.
Otherwise, what are we all here for?
Literally.
It's just a bunch of straight people standing around listening to music. If it's not putting the work behind it.
Right, and Shannon Devil. It's true.
It's just a bunch of white people standing around listening to music. Unless you're doing the work behind it. And I'm really proud to be at an agency where the work is being done. We just started a program with our New York office with a charity called Scan Harbor. We're hiring and paying high schoolers to work out of our New York office. And they are, I'll show some of y'all later. We have videos of them learning that they got the internship. Oh my goodness. It's the most adorable thing I've ever seen in the world.
Okay, so on the heels of that strong statement, I'm so proud of you. This is what I want. Just quick departure from this. This is what I want. This is really the heart of why I started Black Taxi, because now the Sydneys of the world, as you can see, are now at Performing Arts and are like, no, if Steph Small can put her foot down and be checking her CEO, what are y'all doing? This is why I did it, because, again, I'm but one person and your girl is tired, almost 5 years running this thing. But if Sydney can be replicated 20 times across agencies, across Canada, that's when the change is going to happen. That's how it's going to happen. Not one of us, not just Black women, every single person. And don't be skinning out and catching up at Pride and then misgendering people on Monday. Don't do that. Please don't do that. So on the heels of that, Sid, what do you think, if any, will be the consequences of these agencies, companies, organizations that completely ignore and or fail at DE&I work?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that the work will suffer. Every single time the work will suffer. Because there's at these award shows, people are picking up things for talking to Black people, talking to queer people, really targeting them, but sometimes you'll go into the work and you'll really look at it and you'll be like, this is not true, that is not true, this insight is not true. And I've been in rooms where people are trying to come up with that world-changing work and they'll say, this is unequivocally true, and I'll be like, actually, is it true? If you don't have the people you are talking to in the room making the work, your insights are not going to feel true. Your work is not going to feel complete without those people. It never will. That's one of the biggest consequences. I will say the work will suffer 100%. The other thing I'll say is nobody's going to want to work for you.
Sorry. As much as like people think this industry is massive, it's really not. We're all 6 degrees of separation, and more importantly, we all talk to each other. So like, if Sydney was to move on, well, actually, when she was moving on to performance arts, like, she was like, do you know anyone over there? And I was like, who do I know at performance arts? That's not uncommon. There are many of us, I mean, it happens a lot with BIPOC folks, but across the board, there are a lot of us working at agencies and looking to make the jump to somewhere else, and we will go on to LinkedIn or text a friend and be like, yo, I'm thinking about going to Cassette. Do you know anyone over there? And we'll be like, oh, girl, that's not the one. We all talk to each other, specifically with BIPOC folks, because we want to protect you. If you ask me about the agency where I spent the worst year of my life, we can talk about that off to the side, not being recorded by Dave. I will give you the tea, okay? And I will tell you, don't do it. And it's like that. We want to protect each other, especially BIPOC folks, especially young folks coming up. We want you to learn from the mistakes that we made so that you don't repeat them and that you're better than us moving forward. So don't think, agencies, that we're just hoping that HR will give us a good reference that, nah, she's gonna call me, I'm gonna call Anton, I'm gonna call anybody else that I see on LinkedIn and be like, what's really going on over there? Just know, 6 degrees of separation, we've all worked with each other or know someone that's worked with someone that works with someone, we all be talking.
Girl, the amount of times I've been reached out to by recruiters, and the first thing I do, I go on PoCam, and I see who works there.
Get in PoCam. If y'all
Get on PoCam.
Get in PoCam.
I get on there, I see who works there, I reach out, I'm like, what's the real tea? What are we talking about? Is this legit? Is it not? Because we're talking. And we all know this. Everybody's talking to each other. Everybody's communicating about the places that are the best for us. But also, if I'm looking at your agency's Instagram, if I'm looking at your agency's LinkedIn, I'm looking for faces that look like me. And if I don't see very many, that's a point knocked off already. Because I don't want to be the first. Because everybody's going to be making mistakes around me. And I don't really feel like dealing with that. That's really not my prerogative. It's not my business. So it's not my ministry. I don't really want people making mistakes around me. It's not my calling in life. So that's one of the biggest things. No one's going to want to work for you. But I also think there are a certain sect of, honestly, white people that aren't going to want to work for you either. Allies don't want to work for you either if you're not having a diverse space. And I would say to anybody who's looking for jobs, reach out to people who work there because they will tell you the tea. Reach out to people who have worked there. Listen, I know your tea. And I know where I'm not working.
Okay, remember it.
I'll remember it. Okay. I absolutely will.
All right. Cream, how are we for time? Because we could be up here all night. Let's open up to Q&A. Y'all are tired of hearing us talk.
They're not tired. They have specific questions. So yes, open officially for questions.
Do we have a mic that goes around? Because listen, I'm not trying to get Dave upset. We got to get this audio, okay? Do we? Perfect.
Oh, just repeat the question.
Oh, just repeat it into the mic. Got you, Dave. See, I told you I got you, Dave.
Always thinking.
This feels like Family Feud, Jeopardy, Price is Right. I love it. Come on down forever.
Appreciate that. I think it's forever. But yeah, particularly for those without a plethora of options or on the come up, how do you sort of navigate the spaces when you do get into these agencies that you know are bad for BIPOC communities, but you don't have the credentials or opportunities to go elsewhere? How do you navigate that day to day? How do you navigate, negotiating contracts and even your position within the company? Because quite often people like myself, it's like you get these jobs, but you don't have the choices to move onwards and upwards to other companies, particularly starting out in this recession, So this is my question to you guys. Do you want to take that one?
Dead. Definitely, yes. So you're in there, you're working, you're like, this is not for me. Definitely don't jump ship too quick. I know And I've been there where you're like, you wake up every morning and you're like, how many sick days do I have? Can I just not show up and still get paid? My advice to that is stick it out. Build your circle, though. Build your networking circle. Reach out to people from other agencies that look like you, that you can vent to, because please don't sit with whatever's going on at that agency. Get it out of your heart, get it out of your system. That will eat you from the inside. Build your circle, vent about it, talk about it, but while you're doing that, build your skills. Take all of the courses that they offer, meet with senior people in your department or cross-departmental, which is also really important. People forget. Know people from different departments, not just within your department. Because at the end of the day, when you're ready to move on, you have the skill set that could be within where you're working in and beyond, but then you also have a network that can vouch for you. Someone that can say, whether they're in your agency or outside of your agency, definitely build up your network and your skills so that when you're ready to jump, it's a no-brainer and you won't have any issues getting another position elsewhere. And then ask people before you make the jump again, like Sydney and I have said.
Just specific about the skill set thing, because your ascensions, both of you, was rather quick, making these roles for yourself, creating a new role into, a whole different company in 7 months, 2 years, being an art director. Sometimes that can take 11 years. What was it particularly about you, your conduct, your attitude, and your skill set that led to this quick ascension in your roles within these companies?
I would say absorbing absolutely everything I could. I very specifically picked where I was going to work based on who I could learn from, who was there. So I would say that. I would say building my book was the biggest thing. My book was in a really good place, right? My portfolio was in a really good place right before I left school. And that was one of the biggest things. And I would say talking to people as much as you can. I would say, I think even before I officially left my love.
Still not over it.
I know.
I'm happy for you.
Even before I officially left, I was talking to people even if I didn't intend on leaving. If you have the opportunity to talk to someone, talk to them every time. And then the other thing I would say is when you're negotiating, ask for, as soon as you feel like you've gotten to, this is ridiculous, I could never get this, like that's preposterous, ask for that.
Yep.
Every time. Because I was a junior at Taxi. When I was moving on, I was like, maybe I could be a full-fledged art director. I don't know. Maybe I could ask for that. Maybe I could ask for like $15,000 more. That's ridiculous. I thought it was ridiculous. Then I asked for it, and they were like, sure.
What do they say? Closed mouths don't get fed?
That's true. Closed mouths don't get fed.
I will say, too, just to add to that, because that's all wonderful advice as well, but also in the same vein of what I was saying earlier, the reason my ascension was so quickly was because of who I knew within my agency. My bosses were huge advocates of me, even when I wasn't advocating for myself. So when that promotion came around, they came to me and I actually said no. I was like, I don't know. I can't do that job. I don't know how to do it. And they're like, cute that you thought we were asking. Like, we're not... What do you mean? You're taking this job. Like, we're not looking at anybody else. And I was like, nope. And I turned it down 3 times before they were like, Stephanie Small, you are taking this job. And so get to know people, because like I said, my bosses were advocating for me when I wasn't advocating for myself. When I got promoted to Black Taxi, it was my CEO coming to me and recognizing me and saying, you've outgrown the role that you're currently in, so you need to let me know what you want to do next. I've never been in that position before, but if not for the relationships that I had built with Kelsey and Alexis, with Rob Gannett, with our client services director, again, like I said, just learning about people across departments, building a relationship with them, going for lunches, asking them what their job is, I probably wouldn't have been as successful as I have been at Taxi, because it really was to the credit of people that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
Thank you very much. You know what it is, Black Girl Magic. Okay, so my question is kind of along the lines of, let's say you don't necessarily have like someone come to you and say, hey, like if you have an idea, let us know. But you feel like you have an idea that would be really helpful for your organization, company, whatever. I feel like sometimes as a Black woman, I don't really feel like my voice is heard, or if it is, it seems like I'm overstepping or something. So they kind of take it as like, oh, we don't really like that you're kind of going outside of your box, you know? So do you have any advice on maybe how to approach that conversation, or maybe even who to actually direct it to? Because I think maybe sometimes too it is just you're kind of talking to the wrong people.
Definitely. This is where you allies come in, okay? Because you're in rooms that we're not in and may never be invited into, and you'll be able to open doors for us that that look like us won't be able to open. So this is where I would really tap in to people within your agency, organization. I would start by speaking to your direct report and just saying, I have this idea, and make sure your idea is fleshed out. Don't do what I did, okay? And come with a half-ass something, and then, I think I have something, like, yeah. Have an idea, even if you can like put together like 2-3 cute slides, like a quick thing, and be like, this is what I'm thinking, and then bring it to your supervisor and then, or whoever, and have them open the door for you and say, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Aisha. I have Aisha. Aisha has a dope idea. And then that way you're coming in on the strength of them. You know what I mean? And nobody can say, oh, I'm overstepping. It's like, well, he opened the door for me. So yeah, definitely tap into people that you report to, people who are adjacent to you, but maybe have a little bit more of an in within your organization, and just make sure when the spotlight's on you, that you kill it. Yeah, you ready.
I have an answer to this too, but it's very similar to yours. But what I do as somebody who's started out as very junior, is still quite junior, I plant little seeds around my organization. If I have an idea, if I had a thought about how things should be run, about something that we gotta do, I'm telling my partner, then I'm telling my ACD, then I'm telling the person who sits next to me, then I'm telling somebody in finance. I'm like, I have this great idea. I'm telling people about this idea. So when I take it to my next direct report, they ask around about it too. So they're like, Sydney has this idea, what do you think? If they already have the background of it, they already have the thought to be like, that's fantastic. That's a great idea. The long game, it's the long game. So I'm talking to everybody. I'm telling everybody about this idea. I'm telling everybody about this thought. And as soon as it gets further and further up the chain, and I have more people behind me telling them that it's a good idea. Exactly. And then what's your CEO going to do? What's your CCO going to do when you show up to their office with a crowd of people saying, this is a fantastic idea? What are they going to say, no? Maybe. But most likely not.
Respect. Thank you both, and thank you for the tech effect and the whole gang. I have an advice question, I guess. So my name is Brandon, and I'm a therapist in training, and I also work with Black fathers. This question applies to both my day job as a community development officer at the city and working with Black fathers for 16 years. Around how to engage companies using a language that's sort of shifting from donating to investing. So you mentioned George Floyd, and I'm curious around strategies or advice you may have for folks to, maybe it's language, around speaking to like the social return on investments, yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for that question. That's deep, and I feel like I should have more time to think about this, but here we go. The buy-in is very important, right? Forever and I were actually kind of touched on this before, because I travel a lot for work, and I was mentioning that the difference between the markets, like when you go to Europe, for example, or you're in England, it's not BIPOC, it's BAME. So it's like, and especially because I'm not from there, the buy-in is different. It's like, what does this Canadian know about these things? So you have to figure out what the buy-in is for them, especially if they're not from our community, especially if they don't understand the history that our community has with Black fathers being absent from the home and everything that comes, you know, along with that generationally and historically. So yes, language is very important. I would say you'd have to put it in a way that relates to them. Give it almost situational. Like, imagine this scenario, and you might have to leave race out of it because it's very much like it's a little bit of a trigger for folks that don't look like us. Whenever you lead with race, they immediately get their back up and are like, okay, what is this about? So definitely the way that you present it, I would say tap into the language, make it relatable as possible, if possible, and situational. And kind of try and go that route. Does that make any sense, Brandon? Absolutely. So you could say, for example, imagine you're a single mother in a home with 3 children. You know the father is not returning for 20 years. You know that your children need therapy because of what has happened with the relationship or lack thereof with their father. Would you not want this child to have these same benefits? You haven't mentioned race, but you and I both know that we're talking about the Black community and something that specifically has plagued our community for generations. They don't know that 9 times out of 10 because it doesn't have anything to do with them, but you tap into the emotion. Oh, a single mother, 3 kids, oh my God, she's struggling. It's situational, it's relatable for them. Does that make sense? Perfect. Sid?
I also need a second. I'm gonna apply this to my own practice, so it might be not as applicable as Steph's answer, but I would say in advertising, to get people's buy-in, to include Black people, to include people of color in the conversation, in the creation of the work, I always say advertising is the business of culture. It's the business of tapping into culture. It's the business of building culture. It's the business of creating culture. And honestly, if you look at it objectively, Black people have had a hold, a tap, a hold on culture. We create it. We build it. Across almost any item of pop culture anywhere. We're the ones building it. At least we are the origins of a lot of pop culture these days. So if you are creating culture and building culture, if you're in the business of that, you are at a significant disadvantage if you're not including Black people. And that's what I tend to say.
Does that answer your question, Brandon?
It's like a master class. Thank you very much. Let's give them a Thank you both. That was wonderful. Thank you for these great questions. Really fantastic, insightful questions. Thank you for that. So now we just want to try a little something. And it is an open floor. So that is, if you are here and you have an internship program yourself and you want people to apply, if you are looking to get into an internship program, you're looking for a job, you want to network with somebody, you can stand up right now if you want. And you can talk about it, right?